Peace and greens here, everybody. Today I'm going to be doing a video on See You Tomorrow, or no, I mean sorry, See You Yesterday / Back to the Future. So to me, the two movies are clearly connected. Even if they weren't intended to be connected, I feel like there's a message in the movie connecting the two. And anybody who is into movie decoding, I would hope that you've seen all three Back to the Futures and know that like this is like major decoding treasure. This is a major decoding treasure. Like for me, like when I decoded Back to the Future 1, 2, and 3 all together over the course of one weekend, it was my mind was blown with the amount of symbols that were in it in general, let alone the amount of the amount of things that there was to decode, and amount of information that I felt like would be helpful to people depending on how you look at it. I know there's a lot of videos out there decoding Back to the Future, and a lot of people bring up the president. I was about to say his name and run into issues about the president, but that is just one of many things going on in there, and I'm not going to decode the whole 3 series. I might do a video in the future, which I do want to do, and I probably will bring in a friend because we've decoded it together and we both were just like in awe over it all. Like it's really one of those type of movies that if you've never seen Back to the Future and from a third eye perspective, you really should watch it and decode it. It's tons of stuff in here. It's talking about a lot of things before it happened, and not only that, it's just like is way before its time. Like I so much in there, I don't even want to get into all of that, but I am going to be getting into some things that stood out to me that I thought was really cool. And then to see this movie come out, See You Yesterday, I was like, look, anyway, I know See You Yesterday came out like a month ago, but sometimes I just wait for other people to decode it. Then when no one decodes it, I'm like, let me decode it, because maybe people aren't seeing it from what maybe spirit is revealing about it. Because sometimes when we create art, it's not always our intentions of what we put in the art, but what is being given in the art through spirit. Like spirit will reveal things in art that may have not even been the intention or the awareness of the artist, you know. So maybe the person that wrote it and directed it, he didn't have the intention of that, but you know, yeah. So here we go. So like some of the things that I was noticing in See You Yesterday, while this paper keeps falling because I try to write some stuff down, so I'm just not going off the top, even though I know I usually do go off the top. But the immediate thing from the gate was like, we get that, you know, these two younger black nerds, this boy and girl, they go to Bronx Science, which shout out to the BX. I was immediately like, oh shit, they go to the Bronx, they live in Brooklyn. So it's already all this type of things that you're gonna grab your attention. And it's a time travel movie, so you're already like, whoa, what are they gonna do? What is this about? Da 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 da. But like, okay, Michael J. Fox is in the movie, which to me was the big banger. So Michael J. Fox basically is their teacher, and you see in the beginning, she's reading a time travel book. He's reading this book, Kindred, I think it's called, or something like that. And that book is supposed to be about a woman who travels back to her ancestors, and that's what that book is about. So I'm gonna be kind of connecting some of these things if some already know what direction I'm going with certain stuff. But anyway, the whole movie, she's trying to, you know, her brother is shot, so she's trying to go back and change all these things, and we keep seeing her trying, and we see her doing all these different things, and it's just like it doesn't go right. She's trying to stop the robbery, she's trying to do these different things, and really the movie just has you like, okay, like what is going to be the cure to this whole situation? What's going to happen? Is she just going to let go of her brother's death and move on, or is she going to find a way to kind of fix it? And it kind of ended on that, on an open note, and a lot of people was very upset about it. Everyone was like, oh, what's that about? Oh man, I can't, you know, with that. But it said so much in it being left open, and I didn't catch one person say like, why was it being left open? So I will get into that a little bit because I really am getting ahead of myself. So let's go into the characters. First of all, the girl character, her name is CJ Walker. Is that not like a what? Because clearly CJ Walker was a black entrepreneur in like the 1800s, and she was making all these products. She was an inventor. She was making all these different things at a time where there wasn't being products really geared towards black people, black women. She was making all these different products, and she was an inventor, and she became like what you call it, I think she was a millionaire in her time. I think she made like well over 8 million or something like that, or her net worth is some in the 10 millions or something like that for our time or whatever. But yeah, like, so, and again, Madam CJ Walker is buried in the Bronx. A lot of these great ones is buried in the Bronx. Y'all keep sleeping on the Bronx. We don't want y'all to come over there and change the Bronx like y'all trying to do to Brooklyn. So let me not keep revealing secrets of the Bronx. But and no, I'm not currently in the Bronx. But yeah, so them naming her CJ Walker and her being an inventor, I felt like there was a connection between that, which I thought was really cool. And like maybe something else in that, what the CJ could, maybe the initials of CJ representing something in Walker or something along those lines, because you know what I mean, like there's different names for time travelers and some of them were stamped with these different names. So and maybe something in that, but I don't even want to get into all that. But so yeah, her friend Sebastian was her friend that she's always known, or whatever the case, meaning they both were these smart kids. The teacher from the beginning, they go to him, who was a time traveler. We know he's a time traveler. Not to say that he's a time traveler in a movie, but let's just, you know how they write these stories. You can connect many stories. Just like the time Back to the Future trilogy is connected to those three movies are connected to other movies, because the characters from those other movies are playing in other roles in other movies, revealing things about other things going on in other movies, and there's a connection with that. Is also the same to be said with this movie and so on. You know what I mean? Let's see what, you know what I mean, what else may come out, or what is the connection, or whatever the case may be. So him being in this movie is connecting this movie, and especially it being about time travel. So he's passing on the intelligence to him. Like, she's already on the level of figuring it out herself. She's just working out the kinks, and this is kind of what we see in the beginning. But there's some kind of thing that Sebastian had to go sneak from the lab to make their machine work to be powered up fully. So they get this machine powered up, and he already knows what's going on. It's like, remember, the Doc was the teacher to him in Back to the Future. So now he's the teacher, and they're the students, and he's passing this information back on to them. So yeah, so let me leave it there. Yeah, so we go into her doing these different things, going through these different lives. A lot of people are like, well, why don't she just deal with the boyfriend? Why don't she go back in time and not throw the slushy? Why don't she go back in time and just in her relationship with her boyfriend, and her what you call it wouldn't have been, would have not been shot or something along those lines? But there's so many different explanations people are coming up with, or so many different scenarios people are coming up with to say, well, why don't she do this and why don't she do that? And it's cool because everybody's thinking of this movie was just one of those type of movies that's going to be like an indie hit, because a lot of people, you know what I mean? It's like, it makes you think a little bit. It stays in your mind a little bit. You kind of like, wow, well, what about this and what about that? One of the cool things I thought was cool in the movie, when there's this moments where they would say to each other, I love you, black man, I love you, black woman, and they would do this kind of high five thing. And I thought that was so cool, because first of all, showing that depiction of love between two younger black people were something that you don't see commonly on TV, really being directly expressed in that kind of way. I mean, basically we had like Martin, which maybe he saw this continuous love story with the two of them, and it wasn't really other movies. It was other movies of people showing affection and love, but not in a way like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, it just, something about that would just seem special in this time, because it's not something common we really would see. But it also made me think, because when we talk about time travel, people aren't talking in a spiritual sense. We're not talking about machines. We're not talking about getting in machines and making things time travel. People are talking about inner work you do time traveling to do this stuff, because people do this. It's called past life regression. People go to past life events in their life, and these past life regressions to heal traumas and heal issues, or just to observe them, or whatever the case they may be doing with their past life regression meditation. So same thing to be said in this scenario. But I'm seeing, like I said, the I love you, black man, I love you, black woman. It may just been the artist expressing this from one physical level, but like on a spiritual level, when you're going through the chakras, the heart is a big deal. You need to do that heart work. You can't get to the higher realms or the higher dimensions without dealing with your heart. You know what I mean? This is what the Christ energy is about. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of that you know what I mean, being on the frequency of love. I've heard a lot of lecturers that are able to do all this high dimensional stuff, or travel to these high dimensions. A lot of them say how important love is. how even Crawley said, like, what is it? He said, do as thou wilt, but love is the law, something along those lines. You have to deal with some of that heart stuff. So I think that was kind of interesting between the two of them saying, I love you, black man, I love you, black woman, on a physical level meaning one thing, but on another level kind of showing, like, as to be time travels in meditation, love may have to be something that you deal with, or love has to be something that has to be put into the equation for this to work. And they are real life friends or something, that they've known each other since they were kids, they said, or something like that. So I thought that was really another cool thing. Let me see. I wrote a bunch and didn't even feel like I needed to even say any of this. Another thing that I did notice, though, that I thought was kind of interesting, because anytime they add stuff in, you got to pay attention. There was a Puerto Rican kid who really was in love with the younger black girl. I was gonna say the black scientist, the younger black girl who was that created the time machine too. He was like obsessed with her, and I was like, what is this about? If I'm decoding it from a view, or see if there is significance to it, what is this part about? So there was interesting, because they had to go get a motherboard from him in order to work, and I thought that was interesting that they had to go get a motherboard. Remember, they always be pointing out that too as well, on a symbolic level of the motherboard, and the why they call it the motherboard, and the spiritual view of a computer, and patah, and these type of things. But having to get this motherboard from the Spanish kid, to me, sort of immediately, especially because the color it lit up was kind of like this goldish color, this yellow goldish color at some point, the motherboard that they had to get from him when it lit up. It could be, and it immediately reminded me of Oshun. It could have been something symbolic of the religion of Santeria, and that connection of Santeria, how a lot of black people, once they came out of their slavery and came out of the mindset of getting back to their culture, a lot of people learned about a lot of African spirituality through the Orisha, or through Santeria practices or practitioners, learning about this type of stuff, like, oh, these is black gods, and oh, this is from Africa, and oh, this is the, people immediately learned that, like the chakras. A lot of people get into meditation, they immediately learn about the chakras. Easy. It's like, oh, this one is red, this one is green, this one is yellow, lam bam bam, you know what I mean, all these different simple mantras and so on and so forth. And I think it's maybe some connection with that, with the Spanish kid. I mean, it may not be nothing on no level, but I felt like possibly, why not mention it? You know what I mean? Like, again, this is my perception of things that possibly may be connected on a spiritual level, that may have not been the intention of the creator, but looking at it from a spiritual eye, the things that kind of tied through. So, to the ending, the big ending that everybody is obsessed over. So why did they leave it open? Why did they leave it open? They left it open because, really, honestly, so what if she really did save her brother? What if she saved her brother and then came back and he's right, but then what if he got shot again next week? This is an issue that continues to come up within the culture. What if it was another friend? What if it was her? This is why it left on the note that it left on, because it's to say that this is an issue that continues to happen. So it is not something that just can be simply corrected. You know what I mean? It's not something that can simply be corrected. So, okay, she does save her brother. Again, like I said, he still has to walk through those same streets. We saw the example of him being stopped by the police, and they pulled out their cell phone in that situation. In a lighter situation, when they was just running up on them in the first situation. But in that situation, he was able to take out his phone. But you see, in the second situation, because they were showing you too that this is the habit, he was probably just getting out his phone to record again, and that's what happened while he was shot. And this is to say that it is really no simple answer, but no simple answer of just curing one situation and thinking it's fixed. But Michael J. Fox in the beginning may have been revealing the answer, which is you may be able to receive the answer from your ancestors to receive the true answer to fix the problem. You know why I say this? Because he's reading this book on her and this lady visiting her ancestors in the beginning of the movie. Remember, anytime a person has a book out in a movie, they're trying to say a message. Anytime a book is out, it's never out just for no reason. There's a reason why that he's reading this book. And this is exactly, now getting into Back to the Future, the Back to the Future trilogy. This is exactly what we've seen in the trilogy. We've seen in part one, he went to go see his father as a child, and how the type of child he was. And oh my goodness, don't even get me started, because like I said, so many of these movies and so many of these things are all connected. The Matrix, American Gods, Back to the Future, all these things are tying together. You see the guy from Back to the Future in American Gods, just like you see the guy from John Wick and all these characters from the Matrix also in American Gods. This is not just because there's a lack of actors. They'd be trying to tell you that all these stories are tied together. So, and I'll do videos on that, because nobody decoded John Wick yet, and I'm like, what happened? Halle Berry. So Back to the Future, when you watch the whole trilogy, he had to go back to, he went through this, he went through that, he went through this, all these different situations, and you kept seeing these problems and different things arise. His father gets fired his father, aka like his, or really like his, not his father, but like him in the future, whatever the case may be, gets fired. So we see this continuous pattern of him trying to as well fix things. When did the problem really get fixed? When he went back into the Western times to go see his ancestors that first came to this country. When he went back in time to go see his ancestors that first came to this country, the two things that he said to him, and this is even before getting into the message he said to him. Remember in conscious thought how much people will say, we are the ancestors, we are the ancestors. He goes back in time to see his ancestors, and what? They look just like him. He's going to see himself with a mustache and dressed in this Western attire. You understand? He's going to see himself. We are the ancestors. I thought that was cool. I know that's simple, and somebody like, oh, come on. But to me, to say that and then for them to show it in that direct kind of way, I just thought it was something cool about it, which I never heard anyone say about the movie. But back to the remedy, that what he said. He said, you got to stand up for yourself, but you can't let people bait you. This is what his ancestor said to him. His self from the past said to him. His ancestors that just freshly came from, I think, Ireland, said to him in the when he went back in time, that to the Western time. And understand the confidence. He's like, yeah, I understood. You know, Biff is over here causing shit, or Biff is trying to bait somebody, but I'm not gonna let Biff bait me. Nor am I gonna you know what I mean, back down for Biff at the same time. Like he could talk shit, let him talk shit. You know what I mean? Because Marty's biggest issue was every time somebody called him yellow, he would get into all this bullshit. Oh, you yellow. So he get into an accident. Now he's stuck working for this guy's company. All these different type of situations came about when anybody tried to challenge his ego and call him yellow. It was a problem. But the other issue was his father never stood up for himself. His father didn't let no one bait him, but his father never stood up for himself. And that was the two things that his ancestors told them that they have to do. And once he took that information then and put it into action, then that's when all the issues were put to rest, because his father stood up for himself. He wasn't letting anyone bait him. So his father's future was right, and so was his future. Instead of just being like, okay, his father finally stood up for himself, but then other issues still came about, as we saw in other versions. So yeah, this thing is loud. I'm sorry. I hope it wasn't too loud in the back. But all of this is connected in each other. So I think that was kind of interesting to say in See You Yesterday, that the answer that maybe she really needs to heal the issue of this general issue that a lot of people are dealing with the police, maybe within the ancestors, or possibly that's what's being said on a spirit level. Because like I said, he may have just added the book to say, oh, someone else wrote this book and I thought this book was cool. But at the same time, like I said, Marty got the remedy from his ancestors. Who's not to say that CJ Walker, who's walking around with a name of an ancestor, couldn't get the answer from the ancestors to heal that issue and problem. So that's all I wanted to say. And I hope everyone is enjoying their day. As you can see, it is super hot out here. It's 105, no exaggeration. It's 105. Let me see if I can change it around. Well, no, the camera doesn't want to turn around. $105. So everybody, peace and love and good vibes, and enjoy today. Bye.